Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jungle, a Cincinnati Bengals podcast brought to you by the Riverfront and Blue Wire. Again, my name is Owen Timmerding. This week, again, joined by Seth Shaner. And Seth, we have more football and more of the same defensive woes for our Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, you could basically do one of two things. You could start screaming that you're worried and the sky is falling, or you could stick your head in the ground. I don't think there's any in between at this point.
I was thinking about what we were going to talk about today, and I was like, after the first preseason game, I was like, all right, it's just the first one. I feel like there's some redeeming qualities. After watching a second preseason game, I don't know what the defensive plan is here. And again, I don't want to overreact because I don't think it's fair to the defense and Al Golden, but I've set a limit on how long I'm going to kind of cut him some slack, and it's week 4 of the regular season. If there's no signs of promise or at least anything that I can get behind, this team's in trouble, like legitimately.
Week 4 is probably a good delineation, but I will say I heard something, and it may have been even one of the other Bengals podcasts. I'm sorry I'm not crediting them, but Vic Fangio, the great defensive coordinator, said that it's 4 to 6 weeks of the regular season before
There you
he
go.
even feels like they're doing what he needs them to do. Now, you should see something between what the first team reps have looked like in the preseason. So something between that and mediocre, and then hope for mediocre to good. Like it's just amazing.
I don't really understand kind of any of it. And the thing that's so frustrating is, yeah, if it's a rookie making mistakes, you can give them a little slack. But Jordan Battle looked like the worst defensive player on the Bengals yesterday. And it's so disappointing because he's one of those guys who I've gone to bat for a bunch on this show and outside of this show as one of the guys I really appreciate and think he could thrive in his position. But man, I get it's the preseason, but you got to make some sort of effort on that Jaden Daniels play. He got burned in open space on that second long run. It just looked like, this kid went to Alabama. He's played in no shortage of big games, and he's played for pretty much 2.5 years full time with the Bengals. So it's at some point, man, it either doesn't click or I don't really know what to say at this point because he's been really kind of a joke through the first 2 weeks of this preseason.
Yeah, and Battle is kind of why I'm actually worried about Shamar Stewart. And Battle was not a first round pick. That's not my point. But the idea with the Bengals on these selections has been we find traits we like and we take them and we hope they pan out. And Battle's traits were just instant leadership. They wanted Jesse Bates 2.0. They wanted a guy that could come in and call the shots from back there because of how high his IQ was, and he's having a hard time taking care of himself. And again, I'll say that's why I'm worried about Shamar Stewart.
Yeah,
everything athletically about Shamar Stewart says Myles Garrett. Everything athletically says that traits, but on the field in college it was not. And so you take these chances on these guys, and especially with Shamar, it's a first round gamble. So, you're right about Battle. You wonder why they didn't go get a safety in the offseason.
Don't worry, Geno Stone will come back and it'll make it all better. The ghost of Geno Stone.
Yeah,
I don't really know. There's no plan.
No, there's not. And you hope the injury for Stone does not keep him out in the regular season because they need him, whether we like him as a player or not right now. And that's what the funny thing is. Owen, when I was a kid and in high school and college, the Bengals would start something like 1-6 or something like that. And then they would rattle off a bunch of wins in the second half of the season. And you'd think, oh, they're ready to go. That's Geno Stone individually last year.
Yeah.
Geno Stone saved his position on this football team by being serviceable the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So now you're hoping that Geno Stone at minimum, comes back. And now he's dealing with a soft tissue injury as well.
Which is it's hard to come back from. It's uncomfortable, especially in a position where it's him. He needs to be able to make hits. Some quick notes that I have written down. I was impressed with our offensive play calling on that first drive. I kind
Mhm.
of loved how much they ran it, especially on that 4th down on the goal line where they ran it in too. You see the Bengals be I listened a great podcast that I mean, he's done great work for years, is Paul Dehner Jr. and the Growler and his work with the Enquirer and the Athletic now. He said some great things about how pass heavy the Bengals offense has been. It was kind of refreshing to see them spin around and run in this situation where everyone was thinking pass, regardless of how long it was to the first down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's, keeping teams on their toes, like not being predictable is very important. And certainly in the preseason, you're not like emptying your bag of tricks yet either. But um, I remember 2 or 3 years ago, the Athletic Football Show, after week 1 or 2, it was I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was three, but they were basically making fun of the Bengals for, if Joe lines up under center, it's a run. If Joe
Mhm.
lines up in shotgun, it's a pass. Well, they flipped that on its head that year, and that's when they really utilized the downhill
Yeah.
shotgun running game. The new thing this year to watch out for, and maybe not with the Bengals, but around the league, from the Athletic Football Show standpoint, they were talking the other day about number of snaps under center that are passes,
Mhm.
and that they can see that it was such a low percentage last year that some teams may try to flip that on its head and kind of catch people on their heels a little bit. And you could see that happening because if you mix in the pass from under center, you could also run more from under center as well.
Mhm. I, I was pretty happy. I got another guy just going down the line still. I have Osai sucks in all capital letters. He's just been nothing
Uh huh.
but a disappointment for 3 years. Another guy who you kind of missed it on the broadcast, but when I went back and watched some like actual film breakdown, another guy that really struggled and it's disappointing is Demetrius Knight Jr.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
had the one. Did you see this play? The play was the second play of the game with the big run. He took everything that he like, basically just followed the offensive lineman and didn't do anything to like challenge him. I'm trying to figure out how to say this correctly. The offensive lineman was coming this way, and then he kind of just kept following him, and it allowed for the whole path to open up, and then it was a 45-yard gain.
Yeah.
It was lazy. It didn't seem like there was any sort of like chess match between the two players. He's like, all right, well, this is what the offensive line is giving me. I have to adapt instead of making my own play. He kind
Yeah.
of was soft and didn't let that happen.
Now, sometimes, and it depends on the scheme, sometimes it's a linebacker or a defensive lineman's job
Yeah.
to kind of, you're not taking them out physically, but you're taking maybe somebody out of the play so that somebody else can come in and clean it up. Now,
Mhm.
typically, your linebacker that you hope can go sideline to sideline is not that guy.
Oh my gosh.
So you're right. I mean, deer in the headlights is kind of what I felt like with him
Yeah.
so far. And the thing about it is they trumpeted the fact that he's older. He's like 25. He's been in different schemes. He's been in, a good scheme at South Carolina. The thought was he would, just shift right in there. And in practice, that's what it's looked like from all accounts. But yeah, and now, I was reminded by Daner the other day that, hey, you remember Jamar Chase had to
Mhm.
adjust to even the football itself. And, people were like ready to just give up on the season because he dropped passes in the preseason. But he turned out to be a great rookie receiver on a
He was
Super Bowl team.
okay. Yeah.
So I'm not ready. Again, we can only go on what we've seen, but by the same token, they've still got a couple weeks of practice before the
Oh,
first game, and we'll see how it shakes out.
yeah. I honestly, out of everyone on the defense, I'm kind of least worried about Knight.
Mhm.
Obviously, I wasn't a big fan of 2 plays that were super highlighted, but he's obviously getting praised for a reason, and he's probably going to start. So it's just like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said about like the sky was falling down 2 years ago, like 3 years ago when Jamar couldn't catch and that he couldn't handle the football size. And then he
When
probably
there's
had
stripes on the ball, it's harder to pick up.
exactly, and he didn't help himself by saying that. But
Right, right.
he, the then he had probably one of the best offensive rookie seasons from a wide receiver we'd ever seen.
Yeah.
So, do I think that's what's going to happen for Demetrius Knight? Probably not. But at the same time, I think he can be a serviceable linebacker. Another guy, and it's kind of sad to see because he's been such a Bengals staple, is Logan Wilson's lost a step. And
Mhm.
we're kind of seeing it in real time. And
Yeah.
it's hard to get mad about that because he's been so loyal. It's more just sad.
Yeah, and he's not that old, but it is a little bit upsetting because I think he kind of actually lost it last year.
Yeah.
That's what's funny too. It's Barrett Carter, right, that they got from Clemson.
He had a nice play.
Of all the things that we kind of are criticizing here, like not filling holes that were obvious all offseason, you could go to safety, offensive guard, defensive tackle, defensive end, even if Trey Hendrickson, who we'll get to, I'm sure, isn't on the field. The funny thing is, last year and the year before, the linebackers were terrible at coverage. Jermaine
Yeah.
Pratt and Logan Wilson did not cover well, like with tight ends and running backs and things like that. And it appears that this guy is as good as it gets at covering as a linebacker. And that's going to take. He's still a rookie, so it's going to take some time. But I think I commend the Bengals for seeing a thing that was a negative and maybe getting someone who can turn it into a positive.
Yeah. Let's talk about some good things. Offense, I thought, looked pretty solid. I mean, obviously, you don't love seeing Burrow run for his life around out there. And I thought when he got thrown around, I wasn't a big fan of that. But Burrow's on record saying he wants to take some hits. So, I mean, at the same time, that wasn't very fun to stomach. But I thought his throw to Charlie Jones for that second touchdown was one of the better throws I've seen him make this preseason. Obviously, it's not been a whole lot, but that was thread the needle. It was right there, and it was good for Charlie Jones,
Yes, it
honestly,
was.
because he needed that so bad. Because I feel like all we ever hear about is Charlie Jones good in the kicking game and good in practice, but for him to have his opportunity. And honestly, credit to Burrow too for wanting to go out for that other drive after Jamar and T were done, because Burrow wants to mesh with these other guys. He wants to throw passes to Charlie Jones, and Burton wasn't out there, but guys like that, those 4, 5, and 6 receivers obviously need to have some sort of repetition with Burrow. And another guy who we've waited 12 minutes to talk about him. Where were you for the Tinsley game, Seth? I mean, that
Well,
kid just played his way onto the team in that game.
Well, I tell you, the thing that gets me is, and you actually, that question leads me into my point.
Yeah.
First of all, we left my son's soccer game and went to Buffalo Wild Wings with a group of parents and players, and there were none of the other parents seemed to be Bengals fans, and the game is on. And when Joe got sacked there at the 2-yard line, when he took that hit that he could have gone down earlier and just not taken the hit, I'm yelling at the TV, and I'd explained to like one of the moms, I'm like, this is a preseason game. It's not about winning or losing. I just don't want Joe to get hit. I don't want him to get hurt. And so, but the thing about it is, Joe Burrow shows his power in many ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways Joe Burrow shows his power, and I know Browning threw the passes to Tinsley, but Joe had mentioned Tinsley earlier in the week.
Yeah.
So one of the ways Joe Burrow shows the power he has within the organization is he will mention players he thinks deserve to be on the team, and he will also make it a point to get the ball to said players like Charlie Jones in preseason games or even in regular season games. He liked Trenton Irwin so much
He loved him.
that I think he kept Trenton Irwin on that team an extra at least year.
Absolutely.
Because of how much he liked him. And so that's the power of Burrow. And he speaks things into existence. And not that we thought Tinsley would score twice in 20 seconds like he did with those 2 beautiful catches, but that was something else. And he did. He made a roster.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's the Bengals roster because that goes back to those trade ideas that you and I talked about a couple weeks ago.
I mean, if you can get a serviceable defensive tackle for potential, I just wrote it out here. You'd like to think the receiver room is Jamar T. Yoshi, Charlie Jones, some version of Charlie Jones and Jermaine Burton. And then that 6th slot was kind of a coin flip. And I think right now it's definitely got Tinsley in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but like, I don't know. I thought he was fine. Is he probably a top 3 receiver on a team? Probably not. Could he play somewhere? Yes. If I'm the Bengals and someone offers me a serviceable defensive tackle or a solid guard, I'm probably taking that trade.
Yeah, I'm adding him to the list.
Yeah.
You got Hudson, you've got maybe Jake Browning. We'll get to him in a minute, probably. In a text you sent me that lit the fire under Jake Browning, and then you've got Tinsley, and these are luxuries where at these other positions, like you said, safety, defensive tackle, and offensive guard, you don't have luxuries right now.
Yeah.
So these are commodities they can deal in, and you're trading what was it like guns for butter or whatever.
Mhm.
Remember, was
Yeah.
that the economics thing you learned about years ago? No, so these are extras that they have, and if they keep him on, that's great, that's fine, but he's not going to see the field here like he might somewhere else.
Honestly, might is kind of a strong if he even sees the field somewhere else.
No, you're right. You're right.
Exactly. I mean, like he was like I thought it was funny that he played for Washington and then
Yeah.
he was a captain and then he went out and that second catch was incredible. That behind
Oh
the
yeah.
the one catch was great.
I
And
remember Dan Horde interviewed him like after maybe during OTAs, and the Washington stuff came up, and he was talking about playing with Jaden Daniels in the preseason last year, and he actually had some good games then too. He just
yeah.
didn't stick, but yeah, I had a friend texting me who's not a Bengals fan, like, who's this guy? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it happens. Mo Egger gives an award to the most exciting training camp receiver for a reason.
The tweets during the game were hilarious.
Yeah.
Just like couple more quick hitters. I had Oren Burks with an exclamation point. I think he might have had a good tackle or like a sack. I don't know. Or maybe did he have a pick? I can't. We had like 2 possessions in a row. He stood up because he's probably going to be playing, and he was in the game in the second quarter. And I thought
Yeah.
he made a good enough play for me to write in my notes his name with an exclamation point. And then I've always been a big fan of Tyson Anderson, and him
Yeah.
having that pick was good. And I mean, Seth, he might need to like actually be kind of a part of this team here and solid. Like, who knows? But just the whole safety room seems to just be like, we're going to throw it against the wall and see who sticks.
It is, and even the corners aren't quite like that, but the corners are not established enough to
Not
feel
at all.
that comfortable. So, and Al Golden kind of specializes in those positions as far as coaching guys up. So, he's going to earn his paycheck. Al Golden is, and how he schemes this up and who he puts where, and because where's Dax Hill? Is he a slot corner to take over for Mike Hilton, or is he going to be
Yeah.
outside? What's it going to look like? And we're all kind of interested in finding out.
The other thing, this is kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning. Like you mentioned, Dax Hill. There's still a couple guys that haven't even played. So like that's what, like I said, there's little to no hope. The only hope I got is that Dax Hill and Geno Stone and BJ Hill sort of move the needle. I mean, I don't BJ Hill, I guess. I mean, the Bengals love him. I think he's solid. Does he move the needle defensively with run stopping up the middle? I don't really know. So I guess just kind of a wait and see. And that's why I think it's unfair to overreact about the defense so far. But it's getting to the point now where it's hard to hear Zach Taylor be like, well, we believe in our team, our defense, and they've showed X, Y, and Z in practice, and we're hiding things in the preseason. Like, come on, man. Like, you're playing the starters. It's got to be something.
Yeah, you said the word hide. I was thinking the same thing. He could hide behind things like that when he wasn't playing starters in the
Yeah.
preseason. And you're right. There's 3 presumptive starters that haven't really been out there. So does that make enough of a difference? But on the flip side, you could say if those guys are not out there, it's because of either last season injuries or lingering this year injuries. So you may have to play without them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so here you are. And the thing that concerns me, and I'm at B-Dubs watching it at the beginning, and what concerned me was the fact that they get gashed on what looked like really just basic run plays.
They were.
Right. So, like, it's one thing to tell me you were very vanilla and you didn't really do anything that you'll do come week 1. But it's another thing to say, hey, man, since 4th grade or 5th grade, these guys have been taught how to tackle a running back. and it's just not really happening so far in the preseason.
So we can't go a Bengals show without talking about Trey Hendrickson.
That's right.
We haven't talked since on Sunday in an obvious media ploy by his team.
Yep.
Before a Monday night football game, they released that the Bengals are quote unquote exploring trades again. And some teams interested were Carolina, Cleveland, which I don't even know how that team is listed, and then
Yeah.
Indianapolis. The Bengals' obvious price is still high, which brings up two things. Why didn't they trade him in April? Which is what I wish they would have just done at this point. And the other one is, why don't you just get the deal done? Because Hendrickson is on record now talking to ESPN's Laura Rutledge. They have the years, they have the money, but those are fake contracts. The real contract is the guarantee, and that's where they're far apart still. I also think another thing too, if the Bengals were and Trey Hendrickson were at odds, why is he traveling with the team? Why is he
part
wearing
of it.
Bengal stuff? Why is he openly taking these interviews being like, I'm a Bengal, I want to be here. We can't agree on $4 million.
The Bengals do not have any intention of trading him.
He will not be traded.
If they got blown away, which would be a package of someone who can play for them now plus draft picks at this point. Because that's to your point, if they were going to trade him, they would have traded him in April, and they would have gotten whatever haul they could get, another first rounder, maybe a first and a third or something like that. They would have gotten those things, and they would have invested them in the team. Well, now a team this year that has designs on not only making the playoffs but making a run. You're not going to trade for the future at this point.
No.
So the only way they're going to trade is if somebody blew them away with a starter caliber, like not even just starter caliber, but good starter at one of those positions they need help. But also, let's face it, they don't have any depth at defensive end. So there's just, doing this would be shooting themselves in the foot. So again, you're right. I think you're right. I think the team doesn't seem interested in playing it out through the media. So you're right. I think it was his camp that did that. And so that starts the speculation. Oh, he probably won't even come to he won't even make the flight to the game. Well, he made the flight. He wore the Bengals t-shirt.
Yeah.
He stood next to Duke Tobin so he could be on TV before the game, make it look like he's trying. But I texted you in Caroline the other day, and it's like saying that, hey, it's all done except the guarantees. Like the phrase comes out of the guy's mouth or in the interview as if we're at the finish line. All we needed, you're not even close to the finish line. One of you needs to blink. And it actually would take way more than just saying cross the finish line. It's going to take somebody swallowing hard and not doing something they don't want to do at this point. And I know who my money's on if I'm gambling. I'm not.
I was just going to say that. I was like,
the Bengals don't blink.
Owen. They don't lose.
The Bengals don't blink. And Trey at this point either wants to play or he doesn't.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, there's very few men, especially who've already crossed into that over 30 threshold, that are willing to eat game checks.
Yeah.
Because they don't get paid till the season starts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's bonuses and whatnot, but the game checks are their money. That's their life. And, locally here around Columbus, Le'Veon Bell from Groveport High School here in Columbus, he did that, and his career never got going again.
It got shut down.
Right.
So here's what I'll say. Hendrickson should be on this team. I think he also, two things can be true. Hendrickson deserves to be extended. We both agree on that. Here's the other thing, and this is kind of where my stance has been since the beginning. Hendrickson signed a bad deal 2 years ago when he extended his current deal that he signed in 21. He signed a deal that he was advised to sign by his agent and his camp. He turns around a year later when he's not even eligible to request a trade because he had just re-signed this contract and requests a trade. He then plays the season, has a career year. He's aggravated that he signed this dumb contract. a couple years the extension. And now he's trying to make up for that by doing all this hubbub here. We've talked about this. Do I think he misses any games? No. And here's why. What Burrow said was probably the most important thing he said this offseason. He said this, I don't know the exact quote, but in short, he basically said that I got my deal done the Thursday before this, the Thursday on the first day of the season, on that September 4th or whatever. Jamar and T are different because they had those conversations before. The Bengals take this down to the wire all the time. All the time. The Bengals aren't going to blink. Trey Henderson seems like he thinks he's not going to blink. At some point, like you said, someone's going to have to swallow something they don't like, and it's not going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's just the truth.
No. And
it's not going to be them.
Burrow's deal was way different, obviously. He wasn't holding in. He wasn't.
But it's the precedent of it.
No, you're right. You're right. And listen, I went on record. Remember, I said it'd be the 15th, and I looked at the schedule and said, actually, it'll be the 19th. And I was wrong. It's the 21st as we record this. But the premise still remains the same. Like, I can believe that they're not really that close now because the guarantees are the biggest part of the contract, while also believing that I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to – at this point, you're right. I think Burrow's right. It's probably going to be after Saturday's game. It's interesting to me, Saturday's game's a 1 o'clock kick. Like, they used to never do that with the preseason, but it feels like the third preseason game has become the thing that they just don't even want to have to worry about. So they just – let's get this over with. The starters aren't going to play. And then you've got that basically over 2 weeks then, right? Before you play a real game. So a lot can happen in that time. It's actually 15 days before the.
It is kind of a long stretch.
But it's been that way since they went to 3 preseason games.
Yeah.
Maybe they played the week before the season started. Yeah. Maybe you play on a Thursday night, so you have an extra three days. But no, it's been that way. And it is odd. Our friend Chris Garber, who sits in with me on the Riverfront Reds show, he asked if I wanted to use the season tickets there Saturday. I'm like, and it's because I think his son plays JV football. And I'm like, well, my son plays JV soccer and they've got a game at noon. So, I'm not missing my
there might be like 12 people at that game.
No. You'd have to be a really big Mitchell Tinsley fan to go to that game.
And a Desmond Ritter and whoever the Colts are running out there.
Hey, real quick, let's talk about that because I had said Browning looked terrible in the first preseason game. Might you think about trading him? Then you text me, and I'm actually in the car driving home from Buffalo Wild Wings and say, oh, Browning, he's not going to make it. Or I forget what you said.
You said goodbye, Jake Browning.
Right. And then literally like the next play, and I walked in the house and turned on the TV, and I see the replay of Tinsley's catch. It
was a great throw.
And then within 20 seconds, everybody's talking about Tinsley. But what about the 2 throws by Browning within 20 seconds? Just pretty incredible.
Maybe Browning earned himself another shot. I mean, shot. Like we're acting like this backup starting job for the Bengals is the most elusive backup job in sports. But it's I think it's important. I think he played really well. And like he had that weird fumble incomplete pass thing, and that was kind of the bad play he had. But other than that, he was kind of throwing some seeds. And I again, this Bengals team, I think is just going to confuse me all year. I just don't. Obviously, I hope we're not in a world where we see Jake Browning play any games for the Bengals. But I was actually pretty impressed with how he looked, and I'm all over the. Let's see if we can trade him for a guard.
There you go.
Or a safety.
I've talked you into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, I think he gives you a little better chance than Ritter would, but if either of them has to play,
it's done.
Then I'm not really thrilled about the prospects because the defense is so low on what they seem capable of right now that Joe Burrow is going to have to win all these games 42 to 38 or whatever.
I'm excited that we are finally getting closer to the actual start of the season. It's so infuriating to just watch these preseason games. I will say, as much as the NFL has been changing, I'm glad that the long-standing tradition of the Bengals and Colts playing in the final preseason game still stands strong. It's a tradition unlike any other.
Yeah,
So
they used to play Detroit, I think, a lot as
yeah,
well.
they would.
That idea of staying closer to home, and again, yeah, you're not really. Boy, it'd be terrible, like to go out to like Seattle or somewhere for for the last game, and then especially think about it if you come back from the red eye from Seattle and then
Yeah.
you get cut the next morning, like, just like
That's hey, quick hitter before we get off. College football week 0 starts this week. We have a great game.
mhm.
Kansas State and Iowa State, I believe.
Armageddon,
There we
taking it
go.
to Ireland, which
In
is so
Ireland.
weird to me.
You're an Ohio State fan.
Yeah.
Give me your top 4 and your national champion.
Oh my goodness, Owen, come on.
Quick hitter.
Top 4 regular season finishing up. Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Penn State.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think
think
that's a strong.
I don't feel great about some of that because I could be talked into Penn State still not being able to win the big games.
Yeah.
I could be talked into either Texas or Ohio State winning or losing the first week and still winning their league. And that brings you right back up into the first 1 or 2 spots. The champion of SEC or Big Ten will be number 1 or number 2 or both.
And then they'll probably win, in my opinion.
And I don't know the way the playoffs are going to shake out this year are going to be a little different, I think, because they fixed the seeding.
Yeah.
So Ohio State lucked into it a little bit last year. They didn't have to play on league championship weekend, but they got to play Tennessee in the cold, and then they go out and smoke Oregon. And so their path ended up being not easy because they went Oregon and then Texas and then Notre Dame, but the path ended up being ideal. I guess I'll
Yeah.
just say that. So I don't know what the path might look different this time around.
Yeah.
But I believe Ohio State has enough to get to at least the semifinal again.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time picking against them because I'm so loyal to them. But at least my team could do it, year in and year out. So
That's
I'll
exciting.
pick Ohio State to repeat for the first time ever.
That'd be pretty sweet. The beauty about that Texas Ohio State game is that it doesn't really matter for like seeding
Right.
purposes. Like, remember with the old 14 playoff, if you lost one game regardless, you're automatically on the chopping block.
Right.
Like, you can afford to lose. I saw something. You can afford to lose like 4 games now, and if you have a strong enough resume, they might throw you in.
No
You know what I
3-loss
mean?
team got in last year, so
Exactly.
it's going to be interesting. Nobody that lost three. But the thing is, during the whole 4-team playoff, 0 2-loss teams made it.
Yeah.
So what your point is valid because you can lose the Texas game, or Texas could lose to Ohio State, and then still lose. And it's what happened last year. They
Yeah.
lose at the last second to Oregon out there, and then they flub up against the rival, and they lost 2 games. They sit at home during conference championship weekend, and they're just licking their chops.
Yeah.
And that was certainly for us a magical run, but yeah, you can afford that early season loss and then another one. That's where it was before. Like before, if you lost the game early, yeah, you could still make it in, but you're teetering on the edge the entire rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. I think they've tweaked. Obviously, they did this strength of record thing, which
Yeah.
people pointed to because of Indiana last year, and it's just like, okay, well, Indiana had 1 loss to the eventual national champion. Alabama had 3 losses, and 2 of them were to Vanderbilt and a bad Oklahoma team where they got just blitzed by Oklahoma, just embarrassed. So, like, come at me with a 3-loss resume that is more impressive,
I agree.
and then you can get in over maybe a 1 or 2-loss team. But
I don't think that's gonna happen for right now.
it could shake up completely differently this year. There's unlikely to be a 1-loss Indiana type team.
No.
So, like, what you're looking at then is like if you replace Iowa with Indiana in the Big Ten, but Iowa has 2 losses. Now you're comparing a 2-loss Iowa and a worse strength of schedule to maybe a 3-loss Georgia.
Yeah.
Who had a really good strength of schedule. So now you could say, okay, and it could go vice versa. It could go It could go 3-loss Penn State that lost 3 really good games, and then 2-loss Georgia. And you could say, well, I'm sorry, Penn State's got a better resume.
Yeah.
It could happen that way. So, but we get in these dredges of SEC versus Big Ten when in reality, they're the new AFC and NFC.
Literally.
And the Pac-12 or Pac-12's gone.
Yeah.
The Big 12 and the ACC are just trying to they're getting scraps, and I'm sorry to say that.
Well, it's true. I think Penn State gets the monkey off their back this year. I don't know. I just think their defense.
And again, they could lose at Ohio Stadium.
Yeah.
At the big noon game that is inevitable because Ohio State always plays at noon. They could lose that game and still win a national title. No. So, yes, that's true. But I would point to last year, they got to play SMU and Boise. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about with the path. The path is going to.
They had the best path, and they botched it.
The path is going to look a lot different.
Yeah.
For a team like Penn State, like if you flip it towards this year, so you're not going to get to play what turned out to be probably the 10th and 12th best team in the playoff back-to-back games.
I'm excited to see what Arch does in this Ohio State game, because if he's the real deal, I mean, I also think he's going to get some benefit of the doubt because this is really kind of his coming out party, and his first big game is at Ohio State at the shoe.
I don't think he'll worry about that. I don't think that'll scare him or anything because of who he is. But I will tell you the one thing that's funny to me, and it's because Ohio State played one more game last year than Texas. All right. And then you see Jack Sawyer run for the touchdown. You see Will Howard. You see the running backs. So Ohio State lost a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Texas had 12 players drafted. And Texas loses almost their entire offensive line. And so all I'm telling you is they lost as much, if not more, than Ohio State off the roster. And coming into Ohio Stadium, I'm looking at it and I'm saying Ohio State's defense replaces a lot of players, but Caleb Downs is still back there.
Yeah.
Davison Igmanosin is still back there. Sonny Styles is back there learning how to play linebacker an extra year because he came in as a safety.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonny Styles, wait till you see him come off the edge almost as a 3-4 linebacker instead of playing as middle of the field linebacker. He's going to come off the edge and try to sack some quarterbacks this year. So
I'm pumped. Football's back. We have meaningful football in the college world and in the NFL world coming up. Well, Seth, thanks for coming on this week. I'm sure we'll talk about Indianapolis sometime next week.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, we'll get you with any Bengals news. Fingers crossed for a Hendrickson extension.
There you go.
Something to talk about here. I'm speaking it into existence. So, Seth, thanks for coming on today.
High school football this week as well.
Can't wait. I'm going to the St. X Lakota West game tomorrow. I'm pretty pumped.
All right. Division III state champion Watterson, who I will call the games for again, opens up with Division II semifinalist Big Walnut. So
all right.
It's going to be huge.
Let's do it. All right, Seth. Thanks for coming on today.
All right. Thank you, Owen.
Yep.